How much do you think the cheapest burger in Las Vegas costs right now? $7, $15, or $20? In reality, that number is much larger than that. 2 burgers at Johnny Rockets in the Excalibur Resort now cost approximately $60, a price that used to be enough to feed a family of 4 a hearty meal at a mid-range restaurant. From breakfast at the hotel to an evening cocktail, everything seems to have doubled, even tripled compared to before the pandemic. A buffet ticket that used to cost $20 now reaches $50. Free parking is now charged by the hour. The privileges that once defined Sin City's identity, luxurious yet accessible, are gradually disappearing. No longer the land of cheap luxury dreams, all that Vegas now evokes is inflated bills and a feeling of being cheated after every swipe of a card. In today's video, we'll take a look at how Las Vegas, the vibrant and free-spirited symbol of the American dream, is gradually turning every ordinary experience into a gamble with the middle class's own wallets. A burger, a drink, a hotel night, all have become a new game where the loser is always the one who still believes Vegas is just like it used to be. Las Vegas, the city of luck and glamour, is now making many visitors feel that the real gamble is no longer in the casinos, but right on the dinner table. People no longer bet on cards or roulette wheels, but on every breakfast bill, cocktail, or even a sandwich. A tourist from Houston, Texas, shared with News 3 Las Vegas that she and her daughter had to pay $60 for 2 burgers at Johnny Rockets in the Excalibur Resort.
It's just a single burger, cheese, lettuce, tomato, onion, mayonnaise, whatever. Nothing, not like double burger, no bacon, nothing fancy.
A regular burger, no double, no bacon, nothing special, can cost up to $60. A seemingly simple meal costs half the basic food expenses for 2 people for a week. Everyone hopes a trip will bring exciting surprises. But for this Houston resident, the shock came from the bill for America's most popular dish. Is Las Vegas taking things too far? High prices are not only found at Johnny Rockets. Across the Las Vegas Strip, burgers are now a true luxury. Most sit-down restaurants charge between $2 and $30 for a basic meal. At Gordon Ramsay Burger, Planet Hollywood, a burger and fries starts at $26.99, while the premium version, made with Wagyu beef, can reach $49.99. People are starting to wonder, is Vegas trying to add magic to a hamburger? Because otherwise, it's hard to explain why a dish that was once a symbol of affordability now has a price tag that makes people have to pull out their credit cards to pay. And of course, the story doesn't end with burgers. In reality, the cost of food and services in Vegas has skyrocketed. Many tourists complain that they booked a room for $29 but had to pay an additional $62 in resort fees. A lunch for a family of 5 cost $100. A small bottle of Sprite was $7. Some people joke that they lose more money at brunch than at the blackjack table. Perhaps, in addition to checking visas or booking fees, the entrance to Las Vegas should now also include a section to verify whether customers have a history of cardiovascular disease. Because every time you pay a bill in this city, it's now become a jump scare that leaves visitors stunned time and time again. The cause, according to many economic experts, stems from the deep wounds left by the pandemic. Businesses in Vegas are still struggling to make up for losses by raising prices on everything. The food supply chain has not fully recovered. Beef, cheese, and cooking oil have all been recorded as increasing by 20–40% over the past 2 years. But the more fundamental cause lies in the changing business model. Although the number of tourists has decreased, average spending has increased because restaurants and hotels have shifted to a fewer guests, higher profit strategy instead of many guests, low prices. They no longer compete on price, but on luxury experience, a concept promoted as a privilege, but which is essentially an excuse for escalating prices. And so, even simple meals, like a burger or a morning cup of coffee, gradually became luxuries. Until they can no longer afford it, tourists only have one choice: not to go to Vegas anymore. The numbers speak for themselves. according to the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, LVCA. The city's visitor volume in September was just over 3 million, down 8.8% from the same period last year. That's not just a sign of a tourism downturn, but a manifestation of a breakdown in trust. We are living in a time when people have to consider every expense, as electricity, gasoline, and food bills are all increasing. In that context, Vegas continued to raise prices, taking more from tourists than the value they received. And in a place that once represented joy, generosity, and freedom, that feeling is now reduced to a blunt and bitter expression. This is no longer inflation or policy. This is pure greed. On the Las Vegas Strip, what once represented transparency, a menu with prices printed on it, has almost disappeared. Many restaurants have completely abandoned paper menus, instead using QR codes printed on tables or affixed to doors. They say it's modern and convenient, but for many tourists, especially older ones, it's like a curtain, leaving them to enter a meal without knowing how much they'll have to pay. According to a report by News 3 Las Vegas, this leaves many people only knowing the price when the bill's placed on the table. The Gordon Ramsay burger restaurant, Planet Hollywood, is a prime example. The entire menu prices only appear when customers scan a code themselves or visit the restaurant's website. Some tourists choose restaurants that look affordable, but when they open the digital menu, they realize the prices are twice as high as expected. This format has changed the dining experience that is characteristic of Vegas. Many people complain that it erases transparency, a value once considered a fundamental standard of the American service industry. A visitor from Texas bluntly stated, "Not posting prices publicly is reason enough for me to get up and leave." But not everyone is sober enough to leave. Some people still stayed, still ate, still paid, and were mocked by others as being stupid for accepting that. So, for many older tourists, the issue is not just about money. Having to scan codes, load pages, wait for connections, and only then see the price made them feel isolated and unknowingly deceived. In the past, diners came to Vegas to be served at their tables and to choose their dishes right there. Now, they are invited to participate in a guessing game, where each scan is a new gamble. The news anchor said QR codes were once seen as a symbol of convenience, but in Vegas, they've become a tool to hide the truth. And that seems to be a deliberate move, part of the hidden fees trend spreading across the Strip. Everything is designed to make customers spend more without them realizing they're doing so. When the menu becomes a secret, the right to choose is also taken away. Many tourists spend a whole week in Vegas only to realize that on the Strip, everything is designed to make you spend money, even if you don't know what you're spending it on. And perhaps the worst part isn't losing a few extra dollars on a meal, but losing faith that Vegas is still a fair place for everyone, even those who once loved it the most. At one time, Las Vegas was known as the paradise of bargains. Guests can visit any casino, eat a buffet for just a few bucks, drink cheap beer, and enjoy a burger for $4.50 at In-N-Out. Part of a familiar strategy: cheap food to keep players. Everything was simple then, and this city lived on friendliness, not luxury. However, Vegas of 2025 is completely different. A table burger rarely costs less than $20, and current popularity ranges from $22 to $30. Casual meal, something that once made tourists feel welcome, has now turned into a symbol of separation. Even in the burger world, the gap between rich and poor has formed. At Gordon Ramsay Burger, the cheapest dish costs $26.99, while the Wagyu beef special can cost up to $49.99. Not far away, at Tom's Watch Bar in the New York Hotel, there is the only burger under $20, $19.59, which is considered the last remaining bargain. 9 Fine Irishmen sell burgers for $23, and Bob's Burgers keeps the price below $20, but does not serve at the table, and guests still have to pay extra for chips. The news anchor said something full of meaning. If you find a place to eat under $20 on the Strip, congratulations, because that is now as rare as winning the jackpot. What used to be a little fun, called a burger part, sitting by the window looking at the bright lights of the city, is now a test for the budget. Vegas for everyone. Oh. The slogan that once made this city special is fading. When a casual meal no longer exists, Vegas not only loses its competitive edge, but also loses the emotional connection with millions of middle-class travelers who once considered this place a home of dreams just at hand. Amid neon lights and slot machine sounds, people are starting to realize the glamour may still be there, but the popular soul of Vegas is gone, along with the $4 burger of any year. Las Vegas Strip used to be where pop culture and hotel industry intersected. A street where big brands compete to shine, where every famous name turns into a tool to raise prices and polish images. In that world, the value no longer lies in the food or service, but in the name printed on the sign. Gordon Ramsay is the clearest proof of this effect. His name, a globally famous chef, helps Gordon Ramsay Burger become a sought-after destination for tourists. But that reputation comes with a price tag of nearly $50 for a burger, while most customers claim that the quality is not significantly different from cheaper places off the Strip. The only difference, perhaps, is the feeling of being eaten in a brand. The local station's report commented, "The brand effect combined with the central location has pushed the price far beyond the real value. People pay not just for the food, but for the illusion of experiencing Vegas, as if every meal was a ticket into the world of fame." Visitors are left with the default that they will spend more just because they are in the city without sleep. A widely shared comment changed the hearts of many people. Vegas thinks they are Monaco. A statement that is both ironic and sarcastic. Because in the light of a series of international brands, the feeling of friendliness and closeness that once made the soul of Vegas seems to have disappeared. The irony is that the illusion was created very cleverly. Vegas knows how to make people believe that they are living the dream, even though in reality, that dream is being resold piecemeal at a higher and higher price. Luxurious dishes, lavish rooms, famous brands are all just a mirror of a city that is selling its own image. But like all illusions, it cannot last forever. The more brands jostle, the more diluted the real Vegas is. Under bright neon lights, the city is still bright, but in the eyes of many tourists, it is becoming hollow inside. Vegas used to be built on the belief that anyone could find happiness here. Now it seems only those who have enough money are allowed to dream. There's something strange going on in Las Vegas. The city is still lit up, but the auditorium is gradually emptying. Many people used to consider Vegas a familiar destination, where they visited 1-2 times per year for more than 10, even 15 years, has now stopped in the last 4 years. They are not because they cannot afford it, but because they feel no longer welcome. The most common reason repeated in thousands of comments is that price gouging increases prices unreasonably, tapping into the pockets of former loyal customers. One person wrote, "I remember the days when casinos used cheap food to invite guests. Now those days are over." Another said briefly but decisively, "When Vegas started collecting parking fees, I left forever." Vegas used to be a place where people came to find joy, comfort, and a little fantasy without going beyond their means. But now, that feeling has disappeared. The alternative is a sky-high bill, a hidden fee, a $60 meal, and the feeling that the once friendly city is now trying to limit the patience of the people who fed it. One audience member wrote, "Vegas hasn't changed in a night. It changed every dollar, every swipe of my card, until I realized I was no longer a welcome person." And perhaps that's the most painful thing, not because of the price, but because of the rupture of an implicit covenant that Vegas used to be a place where everyone, regardless of income, could feel like they belonged. Now that covenant has broken down, and the city that was once a symbol of popular joy is making ordinary people feel strange right in the middle of their own lights. In the comments section, under the Vegas price news, there was a hauntingly recurring refrain, "I won't be back again." Not a temporary threat or anger, but a statement from people who once loved this city, who came here every year, regularly as a habit. Many people bitterly compare that New York or Los Angeles is now cheaper than Las Vegas. As America's most expensive metropolises become more breathable than the capital of joy, Vegas has perhaps lost something more fundamental than the balance of value and experience. One person commented, "I used to go every year, but 2024 is the last. I'm tired of the feeling of being ripped out of money in every corner." Someone else said frankly, without any respect, "Vegas should go back to the desert." A statement that sounds ironic, but contains both disappointment and bitterness. Because for them, the city was once a place of joy. Now it is only a symbol of greed. It is worth noting that this wave of departures took place in silence. No protest, no protest. Simply don't come back. They don't need to write a letter of complaint. They don't need to declare a boycott. They just disappear from the booking list, from the long lines of traffic that used to flock to the Strip every weekend. In the eyes of those who once called Vegas America's most valuable holiday, the city has now become a symbol of exhaustion and depression. When everything from meals to parking spaces became a test of patience, the middle-class American, who has been the backbone of Vegas for decades, chose to leave, not out of anger, but because no longer feel like you belong here. And perhaps it is that silent departure that is the harshest warning. Not the booing or the wave of outrage, but the silence of millions of people who once loved, and now only know how to turn their backs on the city they once believed in. Under the bright light of millions of neon bulbs, Las Vegas still looks like an endless dream. But if one looks closer, one begins to realize a gap not in the casino, but in the soul of this city. Many visitors say Vegas has never looked so empty. Luxury hotel rooms that used to be full every weekend now have turned off lights and silent hallways. Those who have come back every year have stopped walking, and the Vegas elite who are willing to pay thousands of dollars for a night are not crowded enough to fill that void. A widely shared comment read, "I just hope there are enough rich people to fill those rooms, because the average person no longer wants to come." Behind lavish signs and polished advertising campaigns, Vegas is facing the consequences of its own gamble, betting on money instead of trust. In its thirst for profit, the city has forgotten what once made it immortal, feeling fun for everyone, which has turned Vegas into a cultural icon rather than a tourist destination. Visitors in Arizona who have been to Vegas around 20 times shared, "Vegas used to be fun for everyone. Now, it's just a lesson about greed." Vegas is losing in its own game. The city, which used to live on the hopes of middle-class people, now pushes itself off the table. And the irony is, you cannot keep the light bright forever if the person who once lit it has left. As the rides leave the Nevada desert, bringing with them the last travelers who ever believed in the city of opportunity, the remaining question is not when Vegas will recover, but whether it is still worth trusting or not. Are not. Because perhaps the last bet that Vegas is playing is not in the numbers, but in the human belief of which, when lost, no jackpot can be bought back. Las Vegas has always been called the mirror of America, reflects everything this country worships. Freedom, opportunity, consumption, and the dream of changing lives. But if we look closer at that mirror today, what we see is no longer the light of prosperity, but a distorted image of America that is gradually exhausting. Vegas was once built on a promise. Everyone has a chance to win. That is the promise of an entire generation of generations who believe that their efforts will be rewarded. that confidence in the market and consumption will lead them to a good future. But then, when a burger cost $60, a $29 hotel room went up to $90 because of hidden fees, and a $7 glass of water became normal, that promise began to collapse little by little. Because Vegas is not just a city of gambling. It is the perfect metaphor for post-prosperity America, where the illusion is maintained by bright lights and slogans, while below are inequality, debt, and disintegrating beliefs. What's going on in Vegas today? Prices are out of control, workers are exhausted, middle-class tourists are leaving, is also reflecting the situation of the whole country. One commenter wrote, "Vegas is just America, compressed. Everything is exaggerated, but nothing else in nature." It's hard to refute. When the cost of living doubles, when faith in fairness disappears, and when luxury is only available to the minority, then America is like Vegas, asking itself, what did we trade for this light? The neon lights were still flashing, but people were beginning to understand that it was no longer the light of hope, but the light of a civilization trying to hide the rift. In the middle of the desert night, Vegas stands there like a large mirror, illuminating reality, a society that has spent too much on illusions and forgotten its true value. And if America doesn't look in this mirror, perhaps what's happening in Vegas today will just be an early prophecy of what the entire country will face tomorrow. Is Vegas not just the story of a city, but the epitome of a country betting on its own future? Las Vegas still shines brightly every night, but that light now seems to only serve to better illuminate the gaps the city leaves behind. From a $60 burger, hidden menus, to a double room bill for a resort fee, that little piece of the puzzle is telling the same big story. A city once built with faith, now suffering from my own greed. Vegas has forgotten that what makes it great is not the lights or the brand, but the popular joy. The feeling that anyone can belong here, even for just one night. But when that joy is replaced by cold swipes of cards, even miracles can no longer save a fading dream. If even Vegas, the city that lives on hope, turns faith into a luxury item, then where else in America really belongs to the average person? If you have ever been to Vegas or dreamed about it, please share your thoughts in the comments section. Do you still want to come back? Or has that dream become too expensive to believe? Don't forget to like, share and subscribe so we can continue to bring true stories about America, where the aura and reality are colliding more and more clearly. This video is made with the purpose of analyzing, commenting, and providing a social perspective, without being absolutely affirmative or attacking any individual, organization, or government. All information, figures, and quotes in the video are compiled from public media sources, official reports, and citizen feedback to serve the goals of education, research, and fair discussion. Viewers are encouraged to self-verify information and provide independent opinions. The entire content only reflects aggregate observations and analysis, not intended to negatively affect any party.